You know, the feeling of dread facing the oppressive existentialism when confronting our obsolescence in the face of the universe is enough to give a fair amount of people a panic attack. You can hardly blame them. We're so small when looking at the grand scheme of everything. So why should we matter? We're these tiny little things that can't exist long enough to really see anything happen. Stuck in a vast cosmos that doesn't seem to care what happens. There's a philosophy that says that it doesn't. Nihilism, literally nothing in Latin, is based in skepticism and was popularized early in Tsar Alexander II's reign. Classically, it was used mainly to refer to heretics and was synonymous with skepticism. As the term grew in use, it gained a connection to rebellion, then eventually to regicide with Alexander II. And I don't mean the Greek guy. To bring in a big name that we'll return to later, Nietzsche used the word to describe the disintegration of Western morality. Coming into the 20th century, it changed from something so overtly negative to something only usually negative, denying the existence of genuine moral truth or values, rejecting the possibility of knowledge or communication, and asserting the ultimate meaninglessness or purposelessness of life or of the universe. Truly a chipper subject, I understand. Essentially, nihilism as a philosophy states that nothing matters, not really. Back to Nietzsche, he had a lot to say on the subject. He called it a pathological disease and that it was something we needed to rid ourselves of. Just because what we used to believe about our meaning was wrong doesn't mean that we're meaningless, according to him. To cure oneself of nihilism, Nietzsche says that they need to overcome passive nihilism. Essentially, this form of nihilism accepts that meaninglessness is the endpoint of philosophy, that nothing matters at all. Nietzsche had a lot to say about this, and to quote my source directly, for Nietzsche, a passive nihilist is characterized by a weak will, by the inability to create meaning, and by the tendency to withdraw from the world. This is the negative form that most people think about, where the meaninglessness is overwhelming and everything sucks. It often leads to joining a mass movement to try and prescribe life meaning, usually because following something like that provides a sense of authority, and that life isn't directionless. Nietzsche calls the more positive interpretation active nihilism. This mindset takes nihilism further, past the destruction of meaning, and into the creation and attribution of new, very personal meaning. He sees them as brave rebels who aren't held down by anything they allow to hold them down. Active nihilism is not the end result of a philosophy, but rather the start to create one's own path. Active nihilism is truly freeing in my experience. There is no justification needed for what you do and don't want to do, or what you like. If you feel like you're not doing your best, well, that doesn't matter. So long as you can be satisfied with what you are doing, there is literally no issue. It makes everything just a little more beautiful too. Simply understanding and accepting the scale at which we operate as people makes that sky look, that much bluer, so to speak. It's a lot easier to contend with the horrors of existence when you can think, it doesn't matter, why not? Now, just a little more from me, because I need more time to make up the rest of this video. Personally, this nihilism grew within me. I'd say because I grew up Christian. That was like those, that mindset was like tried to be built into me. My parents tried, not parents, but like my family tried to, drill that into me. But as I grew up and started thinking, it didn't make sense to me. And eventually, that breaks down, just like what Nietzsche was saying. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He talks about how nihilism is the disintegration of morality, and how that is a bad thing. He really did not like nihilism. Just thinking that nothing matters is like he said that wasn't a good way to be. And being stuck there for a while, it is stressful. It's incredibly stressful to be stuck there, just down in the dumps. It really is, like, you really are buried just under stress. the whole concept is incredibly stressful initially, like before you have it worked out. Um, so like being stuck with that, built on Christianity, that it's telling you that you matter just as a person, that you have meaning just for simply existing, that God prescribed the meaning. But growing, I grew up further and I stopped seeing it that way. I started believing more in science. And in the scientific worldview, as I saw it, there is no inherent meaning to anything. There couldn't be. If we exist simply by coincidence, by happenstance, nothing created us. So completely meaningless, which is hard to contend with as a child. I'm sure you can imagine. But, growing into that, I have to, I gotta stop saying, you have to grow and accept that. Constantly being stuck thinking about it, it makes it a little easier to like break it down and understand what it everything means to yourself. So, like forcing myself to do that, I'm always thinking to myself. My brain is, always active. So, just thinking about it and about how I could possibly contend with this overwhelming stress, this reality that I had forced upon myself that nothing really matters. I started thinking it really gets to you. It really can get to you. But you take that to its logical conclusion in kind of an egotistical way. And I mean that in the way that, you take it and you take its conclusions and then you bend it to exactly what you want them to be, which is, as Nietzsche describes it, active nihilism, where you take down the breakdown of meaning, where nothing has any inherent value. So you take that and then you twist it. This is what I mean by egotistical. Twist that to shape it to your own desires. So you take the lack of meaning in everything, and then you can put your own meaning into it. If you like Pokemon the video game, you don't have to justify liking a game like that. Someone could argue morally that it's wrong because you force animals to fight, but it's a video game, and you can say, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I just enjoy that." You're not stuck with one way. You're not stuck with the way things are. If you want to build your own morality system out, murder doesn't need a reason to be wrong. It just is wrong. And feeding the homeless doesn't need a reason to be right. It just is right. There's no justification because it doesn't need justification. It's all arbitrary, and active nihilism accepts that. Everything is arbitrary. Incredibly so. The article I read about it, Nietzsche said, I think, kind of hit on this. It wasn't like one for one, but the article described active nihilism as taking down the breakdown of meaning and then prescribing your own meaning to it. And I think that's very strong. It's just a very solid way to be. And really, once you get past the stressful part in the beginning, everything just becomes lighter. I touched on it in the opening segment, but it really does make everything feel so much lighter. Your shoulders don't feel as heavy. You go outside, and you think nothing matters, and that might get to you, weighs you down a little bit, but it doesn't matter that you might be late for work. Well, it matters in the moment, but it doesn't matter. Your failings don't matter. There's nothing wrong with failing. It's completely fine. Wasting time doesn't really matter, It might get to you, and that is something that you can, work to avoid, but it doesn't really matter. And that's freeing. You can go outside, your troubles melt away. Like, there is no meaning behind those troubles, as long as you don't let there be. and that is so truly freeing. At least in my experience, it has been. Like a weight lifted off my shoulders. It's stressful, but also not stressful. You do need to contend with both, and that is probably the harder part of this philosophy. At its foundation, is that we people don't have meaning, and to contend with that is a lot. That there's nothing built in. There's no end goal, and there's nothing past the end, and that is harrowing. It's awful to deal with. It can be, but if you can make it past that, then you're free. Nothing will hold you back. It's not always fun to think like this, obviously. I want there to be an end past the end. But, with this philosophy, it's difficult to see that, like being the reality. And that is difficult. It can be difficult, but it's also, again, freeing. You can take both. Both can exist at the same time, and both do exist at the same time. Just all in one. It's like a bundle of stress, but also freedom. It's strange and hard to describe. But I think I have reached my time that I needed to hit. So thank you for watching all the way through. This is made for a class, but I'm also going to just release it just because it'll go public after I upload it. If you're in the class watching this, what's up? It's going to loop soon. So, start again. But if you're watching it after the class, it's a lot more personal. Does it look good? I don't know. It's the end of the video. I'm worrying about it. It's fine. So, thank you for watching. Watch again, maybe. If I have other videos, watch them. Thank you.